all those in league for that matter. And I was very fascinated to see all of that happening. And I am very, very happy and pleased that Shreya invited me on to speak on the forum, to talk about my journey. And sometimes I just feel like I'm being so repetitive, because every time somebody is asking me about, oh, how did I land up in the Kulu Valley, I go on to the same notes and the same thing. So those of you who have encountered my talks before, don't mind being repetitive. There's just one Sonali, and she has this one journey which some might find fascinating and some might just find it boring. But nevertheless, the Sahara. How did it all start? How did I land up in Egypt? And that's a long story, and I'll try to make it short, so that all of you can stay here and not leave the forum. So how did it all start? I loved archaeology from the very beginning. My father, he was in the Indian Foreign Services, so we used to travel a lot, and he had this thing about just throwing you in the museum. Literally, he would just leave me in the museum with my sister, and he would leave us to just explore. And I think that that leaving us to our own tools really helped us a lot. We would navigate the maze of the Vatican, go to Foro Romana and just find things there, go to England and go to the British Museum and just explore. And then end of the day, he would ask us questions. And that spirit of inquiry started there. That fascination with the old started there. But as time went on, you understand that reality is very different from things that fascinate you and would interest you, especially in India. And it's very sad because there's a lot of peer pressure. People want you to become engineers, lawyers. Your parents want you to be on the right track, so that you do not falter in life. They have their best interest in for you. So I remember having this conversation with my father, and he said, Sonali, you should try for the civil services. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go to Rao's IAS circle and study and, just go on and on and on. I just thought I want to study because I want to study, not because I have to for this exam. So I told my father, I want to pursue my studies in history. So I went on to do my master's in history from Delhi University. At that time, my professor was Dr. Nayanjot Lahiri, who I believe is now with Ashoka University. And of course, Nilima Gopikar, for those of you who are acquainted with her work. So I've had a very good learning experience from teachers like them who have further inspired me to be on the track of archaeology. So right after my master's, there was another moment where I had to choose what do I need to go forward with. And at that point in time, I had to make this choice of law and archaeology. And I remember my father saying that, Sonali, go on, do law, get a professional degree, and you can always come back to archaeology. You will feel safer. And I didn't mean what he said by that, but I, I just did law then. And I felt that law really opened up me as a person. I was in this shell of mine and shy, but law kind of made me aware of my rights, of being outspoken, of not fearing. If you don't fear the judges who are sitting on a pedestal, then life becomes easier for you. So I practiced law for about 6 years in total on the criminal law field. I was a criminal lawyer and I dealt with narcotic cases and all gory stuff, and that too on the defense side. So many of you would say, oh, how bad, how could you? But that's how law is. It's very crass. It's very shark-like. So you do not see emotions, you do not see the right or the wrong side. You're just doing your work because you're looking at evidence, you're looking at the law. So I got embroiled in this black and white world of Your Honor, my ladyship, and all of that. And life went by. And during that time, my free time, I had to do a case for the Indian Archaeological Society based in Delhi. It's an NGO. It was then run by Dr. S.P. Gupta. Um, so I was doing some arbitration case for him. And during that time, I said, you know what? Why have I come here? Archaeology again? Something is, calling me towards it. And I started visiting that place more often. I started helping them in my free time with the library. And then it so happened they invited me on a dig to Cambridge in Gujarat. And I was so happy. I had time off from work and I went to Cambridge. And that's when I started literally being on my knees, and I started studying pottery in Cambridge. For those of you who are not aware of what the site is all about, it was mentioned in um, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which was a book for seafarers coming from the Mediterranean side. So to give them an idea of what to trade, whereabouts, it was written by, I think, Pliny. So Kamoni was a place, and when we corroborate literary sources with archaeological evidence, you chance upon these places, and one of these places was Kamoni, equaling Cambridge. So those of you who want to read about the discovery here, you can refer to the Indian Archaeological Society's journal, where you'll find some articles written by me on Cambridge, foremost on pottery. And we found iron nails and stuff like that, showing that it's an entrepot of sorts. Now, here I got in touch with Dr. Roberta Tomber from the British Museum, who I really feel is kind of my mentor. I think she's one person who's worked extensively in Egypt and in India as well, specializing in the Indo-Roman trade. And I continued to keep in touch with her. I came to the US and I was preparing for my bar exam here, and I was still going to take the law route. I was working at the district attorney's office in the crime against police officer section. And it just dawned on me that I don't want to be in this world where I'm surrounded by detectives and criminals and lawyers. I want to be an archaeologist. So what did I do? I applied to UCLA, and I just applied to one place, and I just knew that now is the time. I'm ready. And as cliches as it may sound, Paulo Coelho's "If you really want something," in The Alchemist, he has this line: if you really want something with a true passion, the whole universe conspires to get it for you. Well, I wrote that in my statement of purpose, but I wrote it with, not because I wanted to copy what Paulo Coelho said, but I felt that that is what I felt at that moment. And why Egypt? I thought Egypt is a very strategically located place. If you look at Egypt in the map, the world map, you see you have access to the Mediterranean Sea and to the Indian Ocean region. And it's such an ancient civilization. Why not learn something new? Learn something more about, the land of the pharaohs, the land of the Nile. And I applied and I got in. And it was, I was very happy that I got in. It's a very competitive school for archaeology. And I was very grateful that I was accepted. And I started my journey with Dr. Willeke Vendrick, who's now the director of the Kotsen, and she's the chair of African archaeology and Egyptian archaeology at UCLA. So the journey started, and I still remember my first night in Egypt. I was, it's a dream for every archaeologist, I think, around the world to be in Egypt. Like all of you who are archaeologists here, if you close your eyes, what do you see? What's the first thing that you see? And I may be wrong, but I think most of you would say the pyramids, right? And when I did see the pyramids, I just felt like an iota of existence. just to see such wonders having been created in the past. And what a privilege to be studying, to be following the trail of those people. So, yes, it's very poetic at times, but again, you have to get reminded that, archaeology is like a science. You cannot be poetic all the time. You have to be very scientific in orientation, right? So, coming back to my first night in the beautiful campsite in the oasis of Fayoum, which is on the fringes of the desert, the Sahara, the greatest desert ever. And we had this little lantern, and I had this little journal, and I opened it and I wrote, never did I know that I will be in a tent in the Sahara, you know, becoming an archaeologist. And it was I just can't give words to it, that moment. And then we started the excavations in the site called Karanis. For those of you who want to visit the site right now, you can visit it through Google Earth. It's a 60-hectare site, pillaged by people for fertilizer in the 1930s, and has a continuous history of archaeological excavations starting from the University of Michigan onwards. So that's where we started our work. And as I was in that that field of looking for a dissertation topic, I realized my dissertation topic should be on a topic that's very close to my heart. And what would it be? It would be teaching and learning, because that's what I'm a product of. Um Going to different countries, adapting, adjusting, rewiring my brain to the new norms of teaching, and then learning. And here I was at UCLA, where, whenever you're in class, they would tell you, okay, critique, read it with a critical mind. And I didn't know how to. How could I question people who are in that field for so many years? How can I have a critical mind? How can I be disrespectful? Because that's what we are taught in India. Don't be disrespectful to your guru. Whatever your guru says is the truth. You have to follow it. And we feel shy. There is this thing about sir, ma'am, that divide is always there, and we all go through it. And of course, there's so many pluses of being in the Indian system, that kind of respect that you get, you give and you get for knowledge, and that whole tradition, it makes us into who we are. And again, with that tradition, being critical was also very difficult. So I had to rewire what I had learned. And it's a process, it can't happen in one day. But because of that process, it prompted me to choose a dissertation topic which was based on understanding how knowledge is transferred from generation to generation, and whether I can find it in the archaeological record. And that's how I started my journey. And I landed up with pottery. Why pottery? Very close to my heart again. And I do want to show you, it's early morning here in Los Angeles, and it's raining and it's very cold. And I'm having this little pot that I made with biscotti in it, of course. Yeah. So I started learning how to do pottery as well. I wanted to feel like a potter. And a lot of people, they would say, oh, you cannot be neutral if you become a potter yourself. That's not how you do archaeology. But my professor, my chair, she was very open. She said, Sonali, do whatever you want. You want to get in, you get in. You immerse yourself. And that's the key word, immersion. And that's what I feel knowledge should be like. Just immerse yourself. You shouldn't just read a book and write about it or observe. Become a part of it. Become a part, but stay a part. That's the balance. And that's what everybody in this field should do. You have to strike a balance between the two. When we talk about the ETIC and the EMIC, our classifications and their classifications, and how do we put them together in a balanced point of view? And that's what it's all about, right? And that's where my law degree helped me also. The plaintiff, the defendant, putting all these things together as a puzzle, finding the solution, finding who did what, when, and how, who killed whom, that kind of, not as exciting as that, but still almost there. So I worked on pottery, and I was looking at how similar pots. Okay, when we go and we talk to potters, we say, "Oh, you made them," but the potter said, "No, I made this. This was made by my nephew. That was made by my other nephew." How do they know that? They know it because they've grown up with that. They do not sit and measure the pots. They just know everybody's work. For example, in your own homes, if somebody's not made the bed, you know who it is. Why didn't you make the bed? I know it's always my son, right? It's the way they do, the way they leave a trail behind. What is the evidence that they leave behind that tells you that it is them, right? We know it because we've grown up with them. We know their moves, we know their habits. And that brings us to Bourdieu's habitus, right? Structure. How is a structure defined? How do they relate to each other? What defines us versus them? So those were the moot points that I was looking at. So I started looking at similarities within pottery workshops and differences between these workshops who were making the same kind of pot. And how would I find them? I started spending a lot of time with the potters. I started looking at their gestures, their postures, their movements. How do they teach? What are the ingredients involved in the main steps of pottery making? Those of you who are acquainted with pottery making, the stages are very similar, but it's between the stages. They say the devil lies in the details. So in between the stages is where the answer lies, where the differences lie. And what do these differences tell us? Tells us about who they are. Okay, why are they different? Why do they want to be different, right? And how has this knowledge transferred for such a long time? So that journey took me to places like Egypt, of course, where I was working all over Egypt, India. I wanted to make a model of understanding cultural transmission by developing a model that is applicable everywhere, not just in Egypt. So, and of course, I'm an Indian. I would want to work in India. So I traveled to pottery workshops in Rajasthan, in Kerala, and I worked with different, hammer and anvil, and the kick wheel, and other pottery wheels. And I lived with the potters, and I studied them. And eventually I was able to differentiate by looking at, measuring with the caliper. I would go into, villages and say, "Don't tell me where you got this pot. I'm going to tell you where you got it from." And they would say, "Oh, are you a soothsayer? Are you an astrologer?" No, I'm not. I have this magical wand, which is called a caliper. And when I used to measure it, it would more than often be the person who had made it and who they had gotten it from. Now, this was a very controlled environment. You had three potters in a village or two potters in a village. But to translate this into archaeological terms was very difficult because you have a lot of gray areas. So, in Egypt, I try to do it near pottery kilns. And those of you who want to read my dissertation, you can do it on ProQuest to learn more. It is available online. And if you use it for your publications and all, so just remember, cite when you write, or else plagiarism. And that's another thing in India that all of us need to be very aware of. We are never taught citations. We are not never taught things that are very, very important in academia. So now with this COVID and getting into academics and attending lectures, I'm sure so many of you have become aware that academic writing has so much of hard work in it, right? So anyway, that was a little off track. Coming back to pottery. So I was able to find the knowledge transfer of skill through pottery. And my main theme has always been cultural transmission. So I was able to look at present day potters to understand potters of the past and find their communities of practice. Um, Now, what happened was life happens, right? During my last year of my PhD, I found out that, and I was married for quite a number of years. I realized I was pregnant and I was going to have a baby. And I was in Egypt, and my chair said, "Sonali, you should go back." I said, "No, I have to do my field work." And I did my field work for the first 6 months. I was expecting I was in Egypt, and what a ride it was. Sometimes in pickup trucks, sometimes in temples, sometimes here, sometimes there, but all worth it. And I came back, and now I had this staggering task of writing my dissertation when my baby was born. And I was scared, I was worried, and I did it. So I remember those nights when at around 9:30, my son, now 7 years old, Rudra, would fall asleep, and I would be on my laptop, and I had this contraption where, one table, one level was for the laptop, one was for the book, and one was for the baby. Okay, so the baby was feeding, and I was typing away till 4 o'clock in the morning, very, very, very disciplined. This is all the time I have when the baby is sleeping. And I finished my dissertation, and that's it. I was done. How does it feel? You go in front of the mirror and you say, I'm Dr. Sonali. That's it. That's it. All that hard work, and you get that. And life is not very much different on the other side. But now you have a license to be heard, to be spoken to write, right? That's what it's all about. You become a doctor in your work. So you have that knowledge gained that you can do more work. So now that my parents were getting old, I had to make a decision. Do I stay in Egypt, where I won't be able to meet my family as often? Or do I go to the place I've always loved? And what is that place? The Himalayas, of course. Uh, I am from the Himalayas. My mother is from the state of Himachal Pradesh, and my father was from Kashmir, the Kashmir that is occupied by the other side. Um, so I find myself to be very Pahari. I've spent a lot of summers, in where Shreya is from, Solan, with my uncle and aunt. And I would always go to this valley, Kulu Valley, since I was 11 years old. And whenever I went, I felt this draw towards the place. And I never knew what it was, but I knew that I had to keep coming back. And I always managed to keep coming back there. And there's a very old friend of mine, when I was a master's student, I had gone on a trip to Manali with my friends. And at that point in time, Rajiv Upadhyay, where he's my landlord, Lord. Um, and he was a manager of Johnson's Cafe. And I remember this incidents where I wanted a glass of milk and with Vita, and it was very expensive. We were on pocket money at that point in time, and he gave it to me and my friends for free. He said it's very rare that people come here asking for milk with Vita, so here, have it. So that's how we became friends, and I managed to keep in touch over the years. And it so happened that in 2017 I was sitting there in the balcony, and I said, you know what? I need to do something here. I have to do something here. And that's how the whole story of the Institute started. And I said, I don't have the capital, but I have a vision. And he took me down, and I said, I like this place. Okay. It was a very broken down kind of shack where dogs used to bask in the sun, and there was hay everywhere. And it was just open to the elements, but it was a wooden structure. I said, can you transform this into a classroom? Can we have 2 rooms here where I can stay? I want to start an institute. And will you do that in 6 months? And you know what? He took on the task. I applied for a grant. He took on the task. And I started my first field school in 2018. And that year was very memorable, not for the good things, but some bad things. I lost my father. It was very difficult to have lost my father and to start a new project. But I put my heart and soul into it because I knew that my father would like that. And I started my first field school with the Institute of Field Research, where I trained 10 students with my very, very good friend, Dr. Parth Chauhan. Parth and I are very, very good friends. We go back a long time. We met in Kerala for work. And he is such an integral part of whatever I do. He's currently a professor at IISCR Mohali, and he specializes in prehistoric archaeology. So he and I together complement each other, where I teach historic archaeology and he teaches prehistoric. So together we started this, and a month-long field school looking at, and again, my main theme is cultural transmission. What am I looking at? I'm looking at shamanism. I'm looking at how oral narratives get transferred from generation to generation. What are the similarities? What are the differences? Why are the Western Himalayas different? Like, in the sense, why is Kinnaur or Kullu Valley or Lahaul Spiti very different in orientation than from each other? So this is the path that I am on now. And I've had two field schools happen. And then we did one just before the lockdown on principles of archaeology. Now, coming to the institute, what is the institute? It's called the Himalayan Institute of Cultural and Heritage Studies. And it is based in Katrayan in a village called Jonga between Kullu and Manali. My vision was to open up a space which is just not for academics, but for non-academics as well. A lot of times growing up, we leave bits and pieces of ourselves. And when we look back, we say, oh God, I wish I had done that. I wish I was not in the rat race called life, you know. And you often get that realization when you're in your 40s, when you realize, oh God, I didn't do what I love doing. I didn't play that music. I didn't write that poetry. I didn't do that art that I wanted to. And then you say, oh, it's too late. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old, right? So I want to give that platform to people who think that they're too old, that no, you're never too old for anything. You can start off at any age, okay? And this is something that I've learned in America. You can start off at any age. I finished my PhD at age 39, okay? It's never too late. If you have the passion, it's never too late. So, and of course, all of those who are in academics, don't subject your parents or your families to read your, jargon-filled work and get bored. No, you don't want that. You want them to experience something where they can relate to what you're doing. And a lot of times my husband asks me, why are you studying pottery? Like pots, they're dead. They have used those pots. What is it for? And like Edmund Hillary would say, about Mount Everest, that it's there. I want to study it because it's there. Because I want to know that it's just not a piece of pottery. There's more to it, more to life than what is seen, right? So for academics as well, those who join me, those who study with me, I always tell them that make your work known. Make your work something that people can understand. Of course, write those papers, be on the academic side, but a part of it should be something different, something more that disseminates knowledge, which helps the common people. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it for ourselves? Are we trying to please ourselves by it? It has to be known by people, not just as a blurb in a newspaper that somebody found something and that's it. But what does it mean to find that something? What does it mean to our identity, to our culture, to our history? Involve the people, involve the community so that they're proud of their heritage, so that you bring about a change, that development doesn't go unbridled. People are aware that development has to take a particular path, because they're more aware now, right? They're more aware that this is what they love, this is what they care about. Look at the attitude. Many people, they don't care about things. They say, oh, demolish it, do whatever. We've lost so much of heritage in the process. Children are so they're not sensitized. Lawyer, engineer, doctor, I have been a victim, I would say a victim, but balanced it out in the end. Why can't children choose to be who they are? Why do they always have to go after this, whole thing about money? we can reinvent archaeology, we can reinvent anthropology. We don't need to be in an academic institution to qualify ourselves to who we are or what our degree is all about. Yes, it's important to get that license, but it's also important to know that you can change it. Like, look at the world, what it is today and how we knew it. It's changed, everything is changing, and this is what it's all about: continuity and change. And this is what I study about: patterns, about how we change, why we continue. So this, in short, uh, is my talk, and my institute, a little bit more about it. Uh, uh, you know, I have the space, it's beautiful. Have a library. I have collected these books over the years, and I want scholars from all over the Himalayas to come and study the Himalayas. I want it to be a platform for all those who want to study different things on the Himalayas, on geology, art history, ecology, archaeology, anthropology. Come to the institute. I'll be showing you some photographs in a little bit, to tempt you all. My idea is to hold workshops for the academics and the non-academics. I know that field schools, Western field schools are very, very expensive. So one of the things that Parth and I both wanted was to have very reasonably priced field schools for the locals, for Indians, so that what use it is if Indians do not partake, in these Indian field schools, where we are teaching about their own heritage. It doesn't. It's just not right. So we started our first one, Principles of Archaeology. It was a 10-day program. We had 5 students. One flew from UC Santa Barbara as well. There were 2 archaeologists and an anthropologist as well. And it was so much of fun. We learned from each other. It was not about us teaching them, but we also learned from them. Um, our core team is increasing. We have Parth, we have Dr. Angela Suzak, and we have Dr. Ekta Singh, who has recently joined, and she's at the institute currently. We are planning to hold workshops at least 3 times a month on different topics ranging from pedagogy, GIS, art, music, poetry, pottery making, textile weaving, everything that defines us as being human. It can be very technical, it can be not so technical, it can be an experience, it can be about writing, it can be about painting, anything. We are open to collaboration. People who want to join us, who want to instruct, can be a part of it. We'll provide food, lodging, and that experience as well. We have a small residency where scholars can come at very nominal rates, and they want to write books, they want to write. So it's not a touristy thing, it's basically for scholars, where you get peace of mind, plus you are connected to the library. You can come and you can think about things that matter. And yes, that's what it's all about. I have a grant along with my friend Dr. Anya Kotorba to do research in the Himalayas and train students for the next 3 years. We have our IFR school, which is up and running for those who want to check it out. It'll be open, if all goes well, summer. It's open for signing in 2021. And we are doing a lot more. We'll be doing our first workshop in December. The dates are December 5th to 11th, but I haven't posted anything because I'm still waiting for my son's visa to come. And but it is on Buddhist and Hindu iconography in the Western Himalayas. So that's it, Shreya. Over to you. And I hope I didn't go on and on and on. It was like a monologue on my part, and without the hums and the ahs, I really don't know what all of you are thinking, or if you are even there, right? So Shreya, if you could um, reveal yourself. Yeah.
Come back on the screen and
Yeah.
talking then. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. Gupta. I think it was a fascinating talk that I personally resonate with. But well, you and I have a lot in common personally.
Yes.
Now open for questions, everybody. I would love for you to ask any questions if you have about the institute, about Dr. Gupta's journey, about how you could go about doing all of this if you want to be that person who wants to make a career shift, or if you want to be that child who wants to convince their parents to let them go into archaeology. So do join us in the chat. And I think we have a few comments in the chat.
Should I show the photos while people are thinking about their
Please do,
questions?
please do. I think the photographs will add more perspective to it.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, so okay, so this is not the institute. It is near the institute. I just want to show you the architecture of this place, that Kulu Valley. You know, my concentration right now is in the Kulu Valley because I'm right there. But of course, Lahore, Spiti, Kinnaur, what have you, Shreya's side of the mountains, yeah, everywhere. And I really like I'm inviting Shreya to come anytime, yeah, to collaborate, and we should work together, with the kind of experience that you have, Shreya, and we will, I think, together, all of us who are passionate in our fields can do wonders, and it's all about knowledge, isn't it? Uh,
Actually, I'd
yeah.
love to take you up on that invite. And like I already told you, I've been trying to connect with you for a very long time. And it just so happens we've been connected in a longer chain of events.
Yes, and for those of you who are wondering what, our families know each other. I've been to her house when I was a little girl, and she must have been a baby, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So it's the Solon connection, and the world is so small.
It is.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the invite. I think a lot of students would also want to take up the invite to sort of come and work and learn from you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think together we
So
can make it more comprehensive, tying the loose ends at each other's
end.
perspective,
Tying the loose ends at each
at
other's
each
ends.
other's ends. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is on a walk, when you'll be at the institute, you can walk to this place, and this is the bhandar of the famous sage Jamdagni Rishi. And Jamdagni, he's a very important figure in Indian myths and all. He's the one who asked his son Parshuram to slay his wife Renuka, and there's a place called Renuka in Sirmaur, and I'm sure Shreya knows about it. So Jamdagni is omnipresent. He's in Sirmaur, he's in Kullu, he's at Malana, he's at so many places. So this is one of those photographs, and I'll show you more. This is the institute. So this is where I live, and it's been embellished since I took this photograph long back. So we have bookshelves here and all. The classroom is upstairs, and I'll show you more photographs. uh, this is the lecture hall. Okay, so I do not have tables and chairs. I have sultaks have these traditional benches where you sit, you keep your laptop. I got them made so that they are bigger than the laptop size, and you can put your legs in and be on the cushion and learn to sit in the padmasan, be straight with the spine. But those of you who are unable to do it, we can provide tables and chairs, but we would like you to sit like this, be rooted down to earth, that kind of a thing. And up there, this is the library. Yeah. So this is all my personal collection. I've started a book drive. So for those of you who want to donate old books, new books, I really don't care, as long as they are from the Himalayas. And again, this is not for me. This is for everybody who wants to do research here. I'm opening up my own library to all of you. I've got a very good selection of books. I try to curate all those books, which are not available. I know the kind of books I've got in my suitcases from here. I'm getting another bunch of them this time. So those of you who want to donate, please donate books. If you want to donate equipment, again, no money. Okay, I do not want to engage in money. Just old books, if you have, they're just sitting on your shelf and you want to give them away, think about us. uh, Maybe we want them, write to us. Okay. And this is the view. So you can take a book, sit in the balcony, and look at the splendid view of the Himalayas, right? Okay, let me show you a few more. So I'm working with Rajiv. He has his cottages, right? So people who come, they stay in these cottages. And these cottages are huge with many rooms. So basically, how I do it is, it's like people come to learn, they stay in the retreat. It's a retreat kind of setting, so you pay Rajiv, and for staying and food, he provides food and accommodation, so you're well taken care of. And yeah, this is how the grounds are. The whole mountain is his, so that's why I said he's a landlord. Right. um, So this is how the rooms look inside. They are very, very solar water. Those of you who love TV, there's TV, there's internet, there are kitchens. You don't have to cook anything, but they are available for all those who want to. So that's, I'll stop sharing. So yeah.
And we have a lot of questions and a lot of thank yous. Dr. Gupta, if you can see the chat box, I think you love
Okay.
some of the comments that you've received. A lot of people are asking how do they sort of get in touch with you if they want to. So if you could probably type that.
Yeah, I can. That's my email. Okay. That's my email. And with your permission, can I tell them to visit my Facebook page?
Definitely,
Uh,
definitely.
okay. It's the Himalayan Institute of Cultural and Heritage Studies on Facebook. And there are two pages. So one is Himalayan Institute of Cultural and Heritage Studies. Okay, that long one. There's an even longer one, Himalayan Institute of Cultural and Heritage Studies Interactions. Now, the interaction one is for all of you who want to post something of the Himalayas. Now, many times I get posts that are not of the Himalayas at all, and they expect me to post that.
Post
Now,
it.
yeah, and then I keep repeating, it's about the Himalayas, anything about the Himalayas. Okay. So anything about the Himalayas, post it there. You want to talk about it, you want to vent out, you want to be angry, you want to be loving, you want to post something that you feel everybody will benefit. It's a class, it's a course, which may not be my own course. Mm, you can post it there. Okay, in the interactions page. And then you've got the institute page. So you will, once you go to my institute page, you will see a lot of short videos showcasing the culture, things that we do. Every Sunday we have a lecture. It's free, just like Shreya's, where scholars from all over the world come at 7:30 p.m. So we are going to be having our 29th or 30th lecture tomorrow. I invite all of you. It's on wearable heritage, on hair, makeup, and veils. So a very dear friend of mine, Yolanda Bose, who I've worked with in Egypt, and she's worked on the hair of pharaohs and queens. Yeah, their wigs. So what does it mean? So if you want to know what it means, join us tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. We have a WhatsApp group. Again, it's a broadcast group, so you'll get to know about the events at the institute. And again, all of you are welcome. It's for everyone. You may be academics, you may be non-academics. We just want you to gain knowledge. That's our purpose, right? And also, we all have to sustain ourselves. Shreya has to sustain herself. I have to. So for that, we have these courses, these workshops for those who want to join us, and we'll be posting about that. We'll be collaborating. So yeah, that's it. So you can connect with me on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, through Shreya, right? Here.
Definitely. I think taking you up on that, anybody who would want the lecture link for tomorrow at HICHS, Please let me know. You already have my WhatsApp number. A lot of you have been contacting me personally. Was it Speaking Archaeologically you want to attend it? Just let me know and I'd be happy to cross post the link. That also brings us to our first question, which is, can you let us know how we get to join these workshops?
Yes, you enroll in them. Yeah, you enroll in them. They'll be ranging from 1 week to 2 weeks, and I'll try to I've been trying to mull over how to make them as reasonable as possible. And the reason I say that is that because of course I have to give costs to the person who has the cottages. Those are not my cottages. I'm not a feudal lord.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Nor do I want to be. But yes,
I doubt anybody wants to be a feudal lord anymore, especially
yeah,
from archaeology and history.
yeah, believe me, but there's so many out there. It's such a bad world. And, just through this journey, I've encountered the worst kind of people. And I have to say this. I have to say this because those of you who go on your path, you will encounter the good, bad, and the ugly.
Mm.
The ugly will try to pull you down, make you lose focus. It's happened to me. There are very bad people out there, who don't believe in what you do, and who really are made of some other metal. So never let your guard down. Align with the right people, and do amazing stuff. Just believe in yourself. That's my advice. And I wish somebody could give me that advice when I was going through it. But anyway, yeah.
That brings us to our second question then. Grace Lockett asks, I was curious how challenging it was to change your focus from what you studied for your PhD to working in India. And how has your experience been working in India?
Grace is a former student of mine. Grace, I'm so happy you're up in the morning to hear me.
I think one of the first people to join in today.
Really? Okay.
Was.
So, Grace, your question is that how difficult it has been from my. Can you repeat that again, Shreya, if you don't mind, the
So
first part?
how did your change of focus from what you studied in your PhD to working in India happen, and how difficult was it for you to shift focus? That's the first
So,
question.
so it was not difficult at all, Grace, because like I said, my common theme was cultural transmission. So, in Egypt, okay? So for those of you who are archaeologists, need to know that. And a lot of you already might know, but many don't. You can be an Egyptian archaeologist or you can be an Egyptologist, okay? An Egyptologist is a person who is qualified more in the language side of things. It's material culture, but it's the language side of things, the writing, hieroglyphics, different phases of it, okay? Demotic and ancient Egyptian and Middle Egyptian. An Egyptian archaeologist studies language, but archaeology. Okay, so that's the difference. So for me, being an archaeologist allowed me to move myself away from a country in Egypt. I was not specializing in Egyptology. Okay, so it allowed me to move from there to transplant myself in the Himalayas, from the greatest desert to the highest mountains, because the common theme was cultural transmission. So it was not hard to shift. What was hard was professionalism. And I'm still struggling with that. I'm very sad to say this, but in India, people are not very professional. It is very hard. It is very hard to deal with people in India. They are, you remember that a promise breaker is a shoemaker. When we were kids, we used to say, so that, like, I think uh, people in India, and I'm generalizing, I may be wrong. There are some who are really good, apart from those, but people do not stand for their promises. They do not. It's very unprofessional. It's very hard to deal with people, and it's very hard being a woman, being an independent woman. People are cruel.
They are.
It's very hard. I don't know how many times I'm so overwhelmed to put up a face of strength because people are out to get you. They don't allow you to work in peace. I'm lucky to have a few friends where I am. I feel very protected where I am, you know, with my friend Rajiv. His whole family is there. I'm in a very protected environment. And it's really sad that in independent India, you want to feel protected. You want protection. That should not be the case. It should not be the case. And of course, working with colleagues like Parth, it's amazing to have people, you know, who are in your core team, who are amazing people. So Ekta, who's just joined me, she and I worked together in Borneo. She had assisted me in Borneo in my work with the Iban headhunters, their textiles. So she's now at the institute. So you know, they're blessings, they're angels, but they're devils too. So the adjustment has been of dealing with people, not with the PhD itself. Grace, that's your answer.
No,
Yeah.
I
And
think I resonate with that quite a lot. I think being a woman and a working woman is very, very hard. Also, the kind of flack that you get from the society sometimes. Sometimes it's not the people that you're working with essentially who are pulling you down. It's also the people that you're living around who give you a very hard time. They're not very, very conducive to a lot of things. You have to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, behave a certain way for them to take you seriously. If you're starting off young, like I did when I started working in archaeology in India, I was only 22, and it was a terrible, terrible time. I think if you were 22 and you wanted to do something, and if you wanted people to take you seriously as a researcher, I think continuously having to assert yourself, that was one thing that I faced quite a lot. And you just end up rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, because they will hold that against you. They will hold your foreign acquired degree against you, going, oh,
mm,
so here's this young girl coming from so and so country with her degree in archaeology, trying to tell us what archaeology is all about, and we obviously know it better than us. So
yeah.
that's something that I think all of us deal with, but hopefully we will come to terms with it sooner or later, I think. Uh,
Yeah, and you know, this thing about like you said, foreign university and all, like so many times I feel, oh, you don't have a check sense of reality, you know, in India. Excuse me, I'm Indian than any Indian. I'm Indian to the core.
precisely.
Just because I'm in America, I'm still for those of you who don't, I'm an Indian citizen. I've been here for 17 years, but I'm more Indian than anyone. I can say that with pride. Even with the things that happen, the things that I've endured, I love my country. And it's nobody's business to tell me that, oh, you should have it.
Precisely.
Yeah. So that's what I feel, that, you know, create an environment that is conducive for people who want to do work. Don't stop them. Yeah.
But we are a victim of our times, I think. I think we get that quite a lot, even
Yes.
now. Like, it's been what, 10 years since I've been working in India now, and
Yeah.
you get that quite a lot. People will hold it against you that you're a woman. You get all kinds of people, but then on the other hand, you have a very good supportive backbone in friends like Dr. Chauhan, like you do. I think we have that one person in common yet again. And I think a lot of people there are really supportive. They sort of understand
Yeah.
what the struggle is about, and they support you sort of to get away from all the problems and establish
Yeah.
a different.
And you know, people of the earth, you know, when I go into these villages and these innocent people, that's what uh, that's what makes me feel, you know what, this is all worth it. The fight is worth it, the asserting is
Mm,
worth it, because of these people, because of
precisely.
them. Yeah.
Also, when you raise an issue about a particular site, like we were talking about the site being destroyed before the chat began today, and when you actually end up making a point about a site which is dying out, and you make up a valid point, and that leads to a decision making from the part of the governing bodies, then that really makes you happy. That really makes it worthwhile. When
Yeah, and I'll
started,
share that with the audience. Can I share that? Yeah. But you
definitely.
complete your statement. I cut you short, so if you could complete what
No,
you were
that's
saying.
perfectly fine. I think at Speaking Archaeologically, we were working on these temples that I discussed with you. And
Hmm.
with our very field work, which lasted about 2 years, we used to go there every other day because the students could not afford to sort of take a time lag from the university that they were working in. So we would go there every Sunday and we'd work on the field. And just the fact that there were 15 people working in this random ruined site increased the archaeotourism so much that the Haryana government eventually started charging a ticket for it, which they started to use for the maintenance of the site. And
That's amazing.
nothing like that. And that,
That's amazing.
because that makes you realize what you're doing is worthwhile. You know, people around you might not be appreciative, but at least your efforts are getting noticed. At least there's one less vulnerable site in the country. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example now, two examples actually. So and I talked to you about it briefly. So there was during the lockdown there was this site in Nagar which was being pillaged by the locals. They were trying to build pave a road to one of the high villages in Chichogi. It's a cute name, Chichogi. So they dug this and they got these carved kind of stones, and they were using it. And then it occurred to one of them, oh, this is not just any, they're not just quarrying randomly. This is actually some place. I got to know of it. I immediately wrote to the Archaeological Survey of India that during these times it'll be very difficult for any official to come here. And I think Grace knows about it. Grace, remember that whole section I used to show you for pottery? And I used to say that, there is this is an archaeological site. And at some point we should file for excavation permit. It's that site. And I got the permission from the Archaeological Survey of India. They sent an official from Kangra, Vijay, Dr. Vijay Bodh, and I documented the site. And I am writing the report right now. We found a lot of pottery there. And imagine half of it is already gone because somebody didn't consider it worth enough to be to let the authorities know that this is an archaeological site. And if that awareness was there, that would not have been a problem. So that's one case. Second, my students have been working in these temples for 2 years now. We bring the community together. They showcase their short films. And when I say, dissemination of knowledge, how do you do it? You do it visually in a world of social media we are living in. So that's why I make these short videos, 2 minute. That's the attention span of people anyways. So you showcase that culture. You tell people all about that place in 2 minutes. Though my students made it from 5 to 10 minutes, amazing films they make. And we show it to the people of that area. We get them together and over tea, and they watch it on the projector and they love it. Some are amazed at the work these students have done who've come from outside, that this place is so important for them and we are not valuing our own spaces, right? So this question comes up. It makes them introspect. And then soon after, I start getting people calling me and saying, this hotel was built, this is this much far away from the temple, is it allowed? They want to file PILs, public interest litigations. It's amazing. Of course we should do that. We need to make people aware so that they do not spoil the landscape. Look at the kind of houses that are being built today. We are no one to objectify people and say, oh, you can't make these houses. Make these houses, modernize, but also do not lose your cultural identity. Do not forget that this place is known for some tradition. So that's why archaeologists and anthropologists are very important for public policy, and they're not involved in it. That's why you have this unbridled kind of building happening in these sensitive tectonic areas. And that's why things like Kedarnath, whatever happened there, is waiting to happen somewhere else. And now with the Spiti tunnel being opened, you can expect the same thing to happen in Spiti. So something needs to happen, trash. With the opening of the Spiti tunnel, within a month, there was so much of trash. There were no trash cans. Like, how can the government do this? A tunnel, people are going to come, So I went on that rant.
I think that was a rant on all of our heads in Himachal Pradesh, particularly because you had accidents happening within 3 days of the tunnel opening, and there were no services there whatsoever. There were toilets, even though they were publicized quite a lot. When you actually factually went through the tunnel, you realized you do not have public amenities that the tunnel boasts of. And
Mm-hmm.
there's the trash problem. Where does the rubbish go?
Yeah, exactly. Where
Have
does the
people
rubbish
coming in,
go?
and if you have tourists coming in, there will be,
Hmm.
you need to provide for a disposal arrangement there. This brings us to our next question by Alina. She asks, I was just wondering, what is the scope of archaeology in environmental studies, or something like environmental archaeology? I've been studying environmental history lately, and I'm interested in mixing the perspective of environmental history and the technicalities and experience of archaeology.
Is this Alina? Alina, who was my student?
So this is
I
Alina,
don't know.
my student.
Okay, okay, okay. I had an Alina too. Anyway, another thing in common. So, environmental studies, her question is based on environmental studies, right? So, I feel that I'm not an environmental expert, but I feel that, and again, I didn't say this, but when I was at the Coatson Institute of Archaeology, it's an interdisciplinary program. Okay, so it's not just archaeology. You can work. I worked with classics, with art history, with the Near Eastern department, and with anthropology. Climate is very important. It affects humans. It affects humans who impact material culture. So it's all integrated. Uh, Environmental studies are very important in knowing patterns of what is going to be and what was. And of course, it comes within the ambit of archaeology. What is the future of environmental studies? Of course, it is the future. Yeah. How to connect it to our fields is what we need to explore more deeply. It is being done everywhere. We need to do it in India closely. Sustainable architecture, for example. How can we help environmentalists? Look at, how buildings were made in the past. Why were they doing what they did? What was this traditional knowledge? Why were they making these cartoony structures? Because of tectonic forces, so that the building wouldn't take the burden and fall. But now with concrete, that's changed. So that helps environment. Uh, Not using, I'll just say the very common things that I know, because I'm not an expert in it. Reforestation, how to till the land in these dry areas again, how to bring back traditional knowledge of crops. I know Manan is here. Manan is a biochemist. He gave an amazing talk on my forum last week on the kind of things that are losing out and how to bring them in circulation. And how does this all impact the environment? Apples were bought much later. The original cultivation in the valley was, for example, red rice, and it's gone. But there are pockets where it's being reintroduced. What does apple cultivation do? It brings a lot of money in the short term, but gradually it will deplete the soil. What does it do to the environment? What are these tunnels doing to the environment? So many landslides, you know. So it's all connected, and I think we all need to work together to find solutions, to just not talk about it, but implement it as well.
Also, add
So
to that,
that's the
I
story.
think, Alina, you will find that a lot of universities, not in India but abroad, do take geology and geography as a part of archaeology. So, like Dr. Gupta said, you have joint institutes. So, while some focus on art history, archaeology, and geology, there are others which focus on geology, anthropology, and archaeology together within the same institute. So, you will find that while you are studying there, a lot of things like paleoclimate, paleogeology, and all of that also comes into the ambit of their studies, and you can do an integrated study. So if you have a topic in mind, or if you have a research proposal in mind which dwells on this, there are institutes that will accept your application and will tell you how to go about it too. uh,
And a lot of these things are being funded very much so currently,
Very much so. I think, given
so
the current circumstances, this is one of the chief focuses, especially abroad.
mm,
I know in the UK that it is the chief focus for a lot of universities. I think Brighton, where our speaker from last night was, he is a principal speaker in geology and archaeology. So he is heading the
mm.
Institute of Archaeology and Geology, which is a combined institute in Brighton. There are quite a few universities which also do such courses. And I'm glad
And
that
also
this
mm,
conversation on environment and architecture specifically, because our next question is by Priyanshu, who is a budding anthropologist and she's
Okay.
recently on the Adobe mud houses in Kangra region.
And before you take on that question, just want to add a little bit. At the institute, we are actually in the process of making a geoarchaeological and an ethnobotanical lab. So for those who want to collaborate and work here, I'm not a geologist, but I do want the institute to provide the means and ways for people to study. And because where else the Himalayas are studied, but the focus has always been on Ladakh for some reason, So okay, sorry, you can go on now.
I think I
Mm.
totally agree on the focus, the overarching focus on Ladakh and its archaeology and its environment,
Mm-hmm.
so everything. So yes, Priyanshu here asks, often the cultural traditional skills are mistaken for underperforming niche by the young people of such communities themselves, which stands as a problem in involving the community as a whole. Would like to hear your opinion on this.
Okay, so the question is that traditional, again, just the first line, if you could
I think
repeat
she's
it.
talking about how the cultural traditions are somehow overshadowed by homogenization of culture. So, you have
Okay,
that happening
okay,
quite a lot.
okay.
Young people
So
sort of leave it, they move on to other things.
yeah, people, yes, and that is something that I've seen in cultural transmission. I gave a talk on my own forum last week where this picture, it kind of encapsulates that feeling where this old father who's a potter, he has this pot, and this child of his, he's just looking away and holding it, you know, in a very kind of I don't care kind of attitude. Yeah. And when I had interviewed him, he said he wants to be in the army. He didn't want to be a potter. Yes, there is overshadowing because these things are, like how technology changes and how we are exposed to the new world, and then who are we to decide who they want to be or what they want to be. But this whole stigma related to communities, traditional communities especially. And I'll give you an example. When I was working in Rajasthan, the first question I was asked by a potter, did you ask your parents whether you can work with me? Now, why did he ask me that question? Is because of the caste. And
Mm.
sadly, so the caste problem in India, especially, is very, very deeply ingrained. I see it all the time in the Kulu Valley. It's very conflicting. Okay, when I see that a particular caste, a person who's working with me can't go inside the sanctum sanctorum of a temple, it pains me. But I cannot be a social activist. I have to be an observer. And that's the painful experience of being an anthropological archaeologist. Okay. Um, you have to be neutral. You cannot carry your own cultural baggage with you. So, overshadowing there is, but that's been the way of the world. Okay, what can we do to help in lessening that pain is by focusing on these people, telling them that their craft is important. When I make films on pottery, if you want to see a film I made on the potters of Pattanam, it's on my YouTube channel, HICHS YouTube channel, where all these poor potters, they were so happy that we made a film on them, and when we showed that film, they were in tears to see, because nobody, and TV channels oftentimes do, who are promoting tradition knowledge, but nobody's really interested in potters or what they do. They're a very marginalized
Mm.
community, that disenfranchised by us, all of us, because we are the ones who want these glasses, which come from a certain brand. We don't drink in those coolers anymore. We don't buy clay pots anymore. The only time they're actually in business are when they're making diyas. That too, we are substituting those for those tea lights, battery operated, made in China.
Mm.
Sorry, I had to bring that in. Okay.
I think that's
Anyway, yeah. So what can we do to help as archaeologists and anthropologists? At least we in our own, and a drop can make a difference. Start buying pottery.
mm.
Start buying pottery. Start drinking. Tell the government, make this tradition of the coolers. Drinking tea in them is so wonderful. The kind of minerals you're getting inside your body just by drinking tea. Yeah. Make food. Like if Shreya was to come to my house for dinner, I would make curry in my pot, in my cooking pot, which I got from potters in Kerala. Or in Egypt, I have those. I prepare my food in that, and the food tastes amazing. Try blending um, garlic and chilies in a blender versus on the grinding stone. You will know the difference. So it is on you. The burden is on you to get these traditions back, to make them all important again. It's you. You start with yourself. Yeah.
Also, I think adding to that, um, you can't safeguard intangible cultural heritage. That's one problem that we have. So when you have a tangible thing, say a site, a monument, you can still, there's so many laws protecting that. You know, when it's
Mm,
built heritage, there's so much to protect that. But sometimes
mm,
this traditional knowledge, you can't force somebody to sort of carry on a tradition that they necessarily want to leave, consciously want to move on to something else. So I think, like Dr. Gupta said, the burden is on us. We need to make them realize that this is important. We still care for it. And one of the things that I generally encourage people to do is please promote local artists. You know, at one point or the other, there will always be somebody that you want to give a nice gift to. You know, we spend so much money on Christmas gifts and Diwali gifts and so much, really. So always make an effort to promote a local artist. Even as
yes.
educators, I would encourage all those who are teachers here, I'd encourage that every time, you know, you have to say something nice or give something to your student as a memento of what they've done, I'd encourage you to buy from these local artists. Like in Kullu Valley, you have so many painters. Dr. Gupta, you must be aware of them. These people, they sit down there and they're ready to paint whatever you want them to paint, and they're so
And
happy.
I have to tell you, I have this amazing local artist in Nagar. I think Grace knows about it. He paints and he also does healing, you know. So end of the, I kind of gift my students a massage, you know, traditional one where, you know, acupressure, because they've been so living under pressure for a month, and gifts made by him, like paintings on the wood. Okay. And at the institute, I've procured a pottery wheel, I've made a kiln. So I'm going to be start and I have this person who provides me with the clay, who is in Kullu. So he's a local artist. So he, along with myself, will be teaching academics and non-academics pottery making. Okay, I've got a weaving loom as well, and soap making. Okay,
Brilliant.
during the lockdown, I learned how to make soap. So from scratch, not the ones you melt in the microwave. Okay, so just, you know, all these things with traditional things, with traditional with local artists. I want everybody to learn all this, you know. That's why it's cultural and heritage studies. It's not archaeology and anthropology. It's about everything.
That's
Yeah.
lovely. I think the next question we have is, how do you plan to involve the youth of your own country in the institute? Jenny asks, do you have any possible programs that you could unfold for them?
Of course, Jenny, hi. Very good to see you here. Uh, uh, the whole idea of firstly doing field schools for Indian students at affordable rates is the first step. Right now, I'm on the path of making it work. Okay. So I think in a year or two, I will open up the place for internships as well. Now, what I have been doing in the past is students who graduate from field schools at my institute, they come back as instructors. Okay. So that is a kind of instructional internship. For those who want to work with me short time, you can apply to me. But not right now. I think in the next 6 months, because I really need to get there. Right now, I'm zilch. I have to make it work, the costs and everything. And that's the hard part. But yes, I really want this to be a place where the youth are involved, where people come together, who work with me and who learn and who spread that. That's the whole idea of doing it. The idea is not to make an empire. The idea is to become a part of everything we do together in the spirit of knowledge where everybody gains financially, educationally, you know, everybody stands to gain and does not feel exploited.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Jenny also has another question for you. She says, what did your time with the Potters teach you on a personal level?
So with the Potters, I think they're amazing people. And I'll give you an example. There was this potter I was working in Fustat, um, and for 3 years I used to go, 4 to 6 months, work with them, and he was so sweet. I would sit on the ground with them, and you get this delicacy in Egypt. It's called kosheri. It's like rice mixed with a bunch of things. And they used to have it open, but they knew that, okay, they would get me the good one, covered, sealed. Okay. They would get me a can of Coke. And I would say, don't do that, to me. I can have water, and you don't have to. But they wanted me to feel comfortable because I was sitting on the ground with them. I was at their level, so to say. After the end of 3 years, he invited me to his house to have fish. And oh my God, it was so wonderfully tasty. And while we were talking, he said, I, I'm healing. I said, from what? He said, I had cancer. I said, when? And he told me that a year after I started working, he got to know he had cancer. And he never told me. I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, I didn't want you to stop working.
Oh.
So that is the heart of a potter. Today, they are my Facebook friends. Okay. Sometimes they call me, from the desert. There are others in India who are so wonderful. So, working with them is you get to know the human spirit, that element of genuineness, of rootedness. They're people of the earth. And it brings so much of joy that you have given focused your energies in studying these people. They're just not people, they are something else. So that has been my, relationship, my experience.
And we finally come to the last question, also by Alina. So she was
Yeah.
watching a documentary yesterday on Sahara excavations in 2018-19, and she saw how people had been working on the field generation after generation. So, one excavator training their children into it from very early on. So she says, have you come across any such thing in India or even in at Egypt at other sites?
Yes. In Egypt, you have this whole tradition of excavators, especially. So, I'll give you an example. I was working in Tep Tunis. It is worked in by the Italian and the French missions. Wonderful site and very, very methodical. And talking about the French missions, oh my God, they are so amazing. If any one of you gets a chance to work with the French missions, you should. Their food is excellent. They set up this whole tent, and I'll come to the tradition, but I want to tell you about this. They'll have a tent where they have a 3 course meal. Okay. You ask them for anything in the middle of the desert and you'll get it. Okay. If you want cappuccino, they'll say, voila, and they'll go get it. So they take care of your appetite while you do all the work at the site. And it's a good balance because you're taken care of. So they have this whole tradition where a whole section of the site, the campsite, is for these traditional people from these villages who were hired in the Victorian era by archaeologists like Howard Carter from their
Hmm.
families. So their nephews, their nieces, their grandchildren, blah 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 blah, they all learn it through apprenticeship. So that is also kind of transmission of culture, the culture of digging. They are so good, adept at it. They're better than archaeologists when it comes to being in that section and knowing what they're hitting and what it is. They even can tell you what period it belongs to because they've been trained and they know the knowledge, the that training is there. So yes, that tradition is very, very prevalent in Egypt. In India, I do not know. It may be for sites that have been excavated for a very long time, okay, because it generates employment for the people, right? So it becomes a regular affair. in Egypt, it's very prevalent.
So Alina also asks, is there any disadvantage to, say, somebody who comes from a non-archaeological background to work on a site with this generation of archaeologists? Do you face any problems while working with them, or are there any disadvantages of working with experienced excavators? And if there are, how can one overcome them?
So the thing is, I feel that if you lack in something, you have something else. So at the institute which I have formed with my core team, I feel that's not a disadvantage. If, like I said, in the Principles of Archaeology field school that I did in March, not all were archaeologists. There were anthropologists, a design student, and a design student, and two archaeologists, one of them who had never dug. So it's not a disadvantage at all. Our courses are tailored in a way that gives meaning to everything you do. If you are lacking in something, you are good in something else. So that good in something else is what we are looking for. And if you do not know something, we'll teach you. That's what we are here for. Yeah.
Also, I think adding to that particular question, Alina, in a field like archaeology or in a field like anthropology, there's no such thing as a trained professional. Even if there is nothing to lose from them. There's no disadvantage of having such an experienced person on site. Like, for example, I've never really dug in India, but I've dug a lot in England. And I find that I'm working with people who have been digging since they were 10 years old, because there was no health and safety back then. And they're now 70 plus and they're still digging. So you only have so much to learn from their experience, and nobody patronizes you. Nobody tells you that, oh, you don't know this, so you're not supposed to be here. There's never this feeling in the archaeological community that you're an outsider or you're not welcome here. People are more than happy to teach you. And I think one of the prime reasons why archaeologists and anthropologists are this way is because we are very close to the concept of death. When you dig out your first fossil or your first dead body or a skeleton out of a site, the one thing that you realize when you hold that first skull in your hand is that this is you. At the end of the day, this is your reality. This is what you're going to end up with. So despite all your embellishments and your features and everything good about you externally, this is all there is that's going to be left of you. So knowledge gathered is better passed on rather than dying with it. And
And another thing I would like to say, that when we talk about archaeology, it's just not about excavation. So those of you who feel, oh, you've not excavated, archaeology is a field that is like an umbrella of so many fields. You can be a biochemist, you can be somebody dabbling with astronomy or things like that, but you can still be within archaeology. That can be your specialization. So if you haven't excavated, it doesn't mean that you're not an archaeologist. You can still be an archaeologist with your specialization. And what Shreya said about your reality, and I totally resonate with that. I remember walking in Egypt. I was walking and I tripped, and I looked down, and there was this foot, a mummified foot, belonging to somebody in the Roman period, with still, the linen on top of it. And sorry to make it so graphic, but we are archaeologists.
you asked
So with
for
the
it.
skin, yeah, you asked for it. So for the skin still intact, and the head was somewhere else, and the hand was somewhere else. Okay, and we brought it together. Somebody in our team put it all together. And yes, I held that skull. And the first thought was, yuck, it's so smelly. That was my first thought. Second thought was, that's reality, right? Exactly what you said. Yeah. We are looking at material culture.
You are. And
And
you look at it and you realize this is what I'm going to end up as. So, whatever I know today, nothing will survive. Nothing will survive. It's better that I pass it on and, I train future people in it. And that's something that you will find in a lot of archaeologists. I can't say with such certainty that all Indian archaeologists feel that way. I think we've met enough to know that not all Indian archaeologists are cut out of the same cloth, but a lot of,
yeah,
I think, believe this. It's better.
yeah.
And
And we come from the land of Saraswati, okay, the goddess of knowledge. The more you give is the more you get. What use is knowledge if you just keep it within you? What will you
hmm,
do with it? What will you do? Burp? No. Spread it. Be open. Be open to knowledge.
precisely.
Yeah.
Also, I think you'll find that disciplines like archaeology and anthropology, like Dr. Gupta said, they're umbrella disciplines. They're very, very interdisciplinary in nature. So, there's no such thing as a single specialization in archaeology or in anthropology. These are the only fields in the world that have like 50 to 60 sub-disciplines underneath them. And you can specialize in any of that. So there's something called archaeological science. There's something called forensic archaeology and anthropology, for that matter. So, you can be from any of those fields, and you can still be an archaeologist. So it doesn't matter whether you've ever been on the field. And conversely, you'll find that a lot of people who are on the field don't really hold archaeological degrees. So a lot of people who are excavating do not hold a degree or a license to probably call themselves archaeologists in the literary sense of the word. But they are more archaeological than you and I. In fact, one of the panelists that we have at Speaking Archaeologically, the most experienced excavator at the age of 80, still excavating in England, is Mrs. Linda Irene Pease. And she doesn't hold a degree in archaeology. She was an accountant by profession.
And like the people in Egypt, who are these traditional people who have been working, their forefathers have been working, then they do not have degrees, but they are some of the best archaeologists. And
Precisely.
we used to call them Mudir, tell us, what is this? We gain knowledge from them. It's about practice. Practice makes perfect, you know. Lawyers practice, archaeologists practice. You have to practice. And Alina, you were talking about Saqqara. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's an amazing documentary. Why is it amazing? One, it's in Arabic. Most documentaries, on National Geographic and all are usually, in English. I feel that this is one of the first documentaries where the archaeologists of Egypt are speaking. And that's very, very important because it's their culture and their heritage. And of course, Dr. Salima Ikram is a very, very dear friend of mine. She spoke on our forum. For those of you who want to see that, it's on our YouTube channel. And one interesting thing about her and I is she's Pakistani, I'm Indian. And she's the first Pakistani Indian archaeologist. I'm the first Indian Egyptian archaeologist who love each other. So archaeology knows no boundaries. Enemy countries can love each other. The people love each other. So do watch that documentary. It's amazing. They found the first lion mummy, right? Lion baby mummy, 4,000 years old. So yeah.
So with that, we come to the end of the questions. If there are no more
Yeah.
questions, then
I think there's one more. There's one more. Do you want to take that, Shreya? Can you would you
did I
ask
miss
that
something
question?
out?
Yeah, it's from Jenny.
Oh, yes, sorry. So, one last question. Do you find that digging old sites is disrespectful to the dead of the time past? I mean, we could not think of someone going to dig our great grandfather out of the grave.
Yes, that is something that I also struggle with. Of course, when the dead die, they are dead, and they do not envision themselves being found again. That being said, coming back to identity, there are different layers of identity that we have something self identity, who we know who we are really, then there is ascribed identity that is put on us. How we die, how are we going to be buried is not decided, always decided by us. Somebody else decides it for us. Society decides it. What shroud are we going to wear? Which ritual is going to happen? You may know of those rituals, but you won't be a part of them. In Egypt, for example, in the Fayum, people used to get these Fayum portraits done. This was in the Greco-Roman period. They would have themselves painted.
Hmm.
Now, they were portraits, right? Were they portraits of themselves, how they wanted to be seen, or how they really were? We don't know. But it all brings into identity. In India, cremation, with the Hindus cremated, and of course other burials. Should we disturb the dead? Ideally, no, but in the spirit of knowledge, yes. If we want to know about who we are, where we come from, what are our roots. But of course, do it in a way which is balanced again. Do not dig up the entire site. Sampling. And that's why we have the concept of sampling methods. That we do not unearth the whole damn site. We take a little bit and little bit in a very methodical way, so as to make predictions of what might lie in the whole site. That's analysis through quantification. And statistics is very important in archaeology. So yes, we shouldn't disturb the dead, and especially in America with the Native Americans, they get very disturbed about these things, and that's why do you think there's the curse of Tutankhamun? Why do you think it's there? Because they didn't want anybody to disturb them or to take, they believed their belief in the afterlife was as real as your existences and mine. Okay, so these curses are concocted basically to make other people not come to these places. Okay, so that's my take on disturbing the dead.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Dr. Gupta. We had one more question from Medhavi. Will this be uploaded? Yes, it will be uploaded. It will be on the Speaking Archaeologically Facebook page. So if you've signed up for the event, go to the main page from the event and you'll find that lecture there. We'll be uploading it soon. We'll be editing in a few things and then we'll be sort of making it a comprehensive, nice little lecture for everybody to see. That's the whole purpose of this conversation, so that people keep benefiting from it. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing only. So a lot of thank yous popping in, people telling you that you are always a delight and this was so enlightening, and greetings and everything.
Thank you so much for being in attendance, especially those who've heard me a few times and were ready to hear me yet again with my same old story.
I think we'll be very happy to have your same old story back on the forum again. And we'd look forward to having you back with us with a different topic, perhaps, maybe next time. And you can tell us about your fascinating research, which I think all students need to hear about. So thank you, Dr. Gupta, doing this really early in the morning. And thank you, everybody, for joining in, especially people who woke up specially for this lecture and joined us really, really early on in the morning. And thank you, everybody, for your time and your patience. We look forward to having you back on Speaking Archaeologically. We host free lectures on Zoom every Saturday or Sunday, depending on the availability of lecture series and lecturers. But also, we release these lectures on our YouTube channel every Sunday without fail. So,
great.
Who've met us for the first time tonight, do check us out on YouTube, do check us out on Facebook, and you can also find the Speaking Archaeologically website to know more about our projects and what our students really do. So with that, I think I will call it.
Thank you so much, Shreya.
And thank you so much, Gupta, for coming here finally. And let's get connected and let's collaborate.
Of course. And of course, I've asked you to come and do a talk on our forum soon. And all of you who are here, please, you're invited for a lecture tomorrow at 7:30 with Yolanda Bose on Wales, hair and makeup, wearable heritage. So those of you who are interested, please do join us. And thank you so much, Shreya, for having me here. It was a delight talking to you and your audience, and looking forward to making the Himalayas a force to reckon with, as it already is, but with all our work, with all of the people who are involved, we hope to make sure that the Himalayas are true to the core with that spirit of being a formidable kind of landmass.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. Such an honor to have you with us. So have a good night or a good day, everybody, depending on wherever you are. And stay safe and make sure that you stay connected with all of us and follow the wonderful work that Dr. Gupta has been doing with SICHS.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.